I was stunned at how big your business empire is. You know, even as you're speaking there, you're talking about movies that I've watched that I had no idea that you're involved in, and you're talking about all these other incredible things you've done. And yeah, your company's doing what $12 billion in revenue annually.
Well, it's a group of companies, not just
group
one
of companies. Yeah. And then earlier on, you said you'd spoken to these 50 very, very rich people in the pursuit of writing the books that you've written about wealth and finance and money. Pattern recognition.
That's right.
What is the pattern that you noticed in those people that you then applied to yourself? What is the pattern? You know, this is called the diary of a CEO. So I'm sure we have a lot of people that are thinking about building businesses, want to get financially free, especially in a world of AI where they're very uncertain about how they'll make money and how they'll provide stability to their family. What is the pattern that you have found in all of those people that you have met and interviewed? And I know you know some of the most wealthy people on earth because I know you coach a lot of them. Yes. I don't think people fully realize the significance of how many of the most influential people on planet Earth you have worked with and continue to work with. I found it hilarious reading that Bill Clinton called you the day before he was going to be impeached, telling you that he was going to be impeached and asking you what he should do. Yeah.
First, let's say what everybody makes the mistake on, the majority of people. We live in a free enterprise system, and we have kids that all think communism is great. I just want you to know, I went to the USSR when it was still the USSR. I was 24 years old. I was brought there because of my firewalking experience. And I went on a train from Moscow to Siberia and back for 2 weeks. On the train, we were all fed caviar and the most incredible meals, as were all the Russians on the plane, right? We're supposed to be all equal, right? That's supposedly what communism is. Everything's fair for everybody. Every single town, we'd stop in the square and in the square, there's a big building, and they wrapped around for about maybe a quarter of a mile, people standing in the freezing cold to get a quart of milk and a half a thing of bread. I left there and I became a capitalist. I didn't know what a capitalist was, but I knew I wasn't a communist, right? So people in our country are the free enterprise system, but they don't understand it. So what are they making the mistake of? They're consumers, they're not owners. We are a consumer society, and we've trained these kids to be consumers, adults as well. So I'll give you a simple example. I was trying to give an example to a young kid the other day, so I actually did the math on it. You have an iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you always had an iPhone?
Well, yeah, for the last decade or more, yeah.
All right. So iPhone's around for what, 18 years, 19 years? I went and did the numbers and found out what the cost was for every iPhone, added it up. If you got an iPhone each time, somebody who's older to death, you spent $22,000 and some change at the retail price. If you bought the stock, I went and saw what the stock was on the same day the thing came out, and you bought the stock, same amount of money of the stock.
Apple stock.
$326,000 right now. Instead of out $22,000, you have $326,000. If you're going to use an Apple phone, I'm not saying it's Apple specifically, I'm not making a recommendation. Why would you not own the company? Right? Because we don't teach people to think that way. And so now they think communism is going to be the answer. They don't understand what that really means. They have no clue. So you have to become an owner. That's what you have to do. Then the second piece is, when I interviewed all these people, I found 4 things with them. I found, number one, they're focused. Didn't matter if they were a macro trader or if they were a value trader, or it didn't matter what their style was. The 4 things that had in common, I call them the core 4, was number one, they all were focused on not losing money. Most people are trying to make money. And the reason is they know if you lose, you got a $100,000 investment and you lose 50%, how much do you have to grow your money to get your money back? And people will say 50%. No, you got to grow at 100%. Right? You get it?
Yeah.
Right? So they know that. So they're first making sure they don't know. How do they do that? They do it by asset allocation, right? They all have different asset allocation strategies, which at the most basic level is you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Most people put all their money in their business or their house, right? They know that is the kiss of death. And so they look at how to divide their assets where they have a certain amount in a more secure environment, meaning not a lot of upside, but it's kind of like the nest egg. And they have some that are more at risk. And there's different, and I learned what theirs are, and I taught those different ones. But the most valuable one, I know you know because I read it in your book. And I was really impressed. Asymmetrical risk reward. Their entire focus is not about taking risks, right? There's only a few people. You think you're a billionaire because you took giant risks. Right? No. Maybe some do, but they don't usually stay billionaires doing that, right? How do they do it? They figure out what's the smallest amount of risk with the most amount of upside that I can do. And so Paul Tudor Jones's approach was 5 to 1. If I'm going to risk $1, I want to be certain I'm going to make 5. You and I, most average people, would normally think, I used to think, well, 12, 15, 20% return, right? But here's how it works. If I risk $1 and I'm certain I'm going to make 5 and I'm wrong, I'm down 1. I can risk $1 and still make 4. I can be wrong 4 times out of 5 and still be okay. That's how those guys become billionaires. Asymmetrical risk reward. I was talking to a gentleman who in 2008, he took $25 million and turned it into $2 billion in the worst economic time. He anticipated what was going to happen with real estate. Everybody thought it was going to keep going up. He used synthetic bets and bet against it, made $2 billion. Brilliant, brilliant job. And I said to him, what is the things that's missing for investors? He goes, well, the smartest investors are usually the worst investors because they want absolute certainty. They know everything before they decide. And by that time, the opportunity's gone. Mm-hmm. And he said, but the most important key for him was asymmetrical risk reward. He said, he risked 6 cents for every dollar. He could have been wrong a dozen times, but he wasn't. That's how he did it, right? And then the fourth one is the obvious one we both know, which is diversification. But this is the real key. You know Ray Dalio is, right?
Yeah, I've interviewed him actually.
Yeah, so Ray's a good friend. One of the questions I asked him was, if we had to reduce it to the single most important investment principle to know. I mean, you're the Da Vinci of investing. No one has made more money than you in this area. And I said, what is it? Is there one? There's got to be one. And he goes, Tony, there is. He goes, I spent almost 9 years refining this, and it's so simple. So the holy grail of investing is to find 8 to 12 uncorrelated investments that you feel strongly about. If you find 8 to 12 of those, you reduce your risk 80% and keep your upside. In fact, you slightly enhance your upside.
Uncorrelated for someone.
Uncorrelated. Now, that's the hard part today because so many markets are correlated.
What does uncorrelated mean for someone that doesn't?
Well, for example, stocks and bonds traditionally are thought of as uncorrelated, meaning, stocks in a tough time, in a growing time, stocks are where you put your money, but bonds are to protect you when the market goes down. Unfortunately, doing most things like 2008 or 2020, they both go down at that time, but nobody talks about that. They just go, it's this weird thing. It happens regularly.
So things that don't move together.
That's right. They don't move together. Well, so much is tied together today. But the only way to really do it is you've got to have private investment, private equity, private credit, private real estate. You have to diversify beyond just stocks and bonds. And then you can get that across it by different industries, different elements. Because think about this. This will blow your mind. Private equity, basic private equity, not I interviewed 12 of the best in the world. Basic private equity has outproduced every stock market in the world for 40 years. Every single stock market in the world, every year for 40 years. Now, you don't have total liquidity. You're giving something up, but your returns are in a different place. They don't have to sell when things are tough. They take advantage. These are the smartest people out there. And they're not just trying to get alpha. They're building value, right? They take a company, they put AI in it, they bring new people to it, and then they take it to the public, or in most cases, they sell it to private companies. There are fewer public companies than ever. So I looked it up, and it was fantastic to see. The average S&P for 39 years was 9%. Nice return. If you put $1 million down, you'd have $28 million, 39 years later without doing anything. But if you put it in basic private equity has averaged 15.7%. Think about the difference of compounding that every single year.
It's crazy.
Now it's worth $328 million. That's the difference between the same investment in public versus private. So it's finding these pieces. But when you do 8 to 12 uncorrelated investments or more, reduce your risk by 80%. That's how you get higher returns and at the same time, because most people are behind. And
you didn't come from a financial background.
No, I have no financial background.
You didn't study finance in university.
No.
So where did you learn all this stuff about finance?
By going to the very best on earth. Like, why would I go to university to a professor who's never done anything when I can go to 50 of the smartest people on earth? Or in private equity, I went to 13 of the smartest ones, the most successful in history.
Is your superpower learning?
Yes, I think that's what I tried to say to you from the beginning. That's what pattern recognition, pattern utilization, pattern creation is. If you don't learn at a rapid tempo in the world right now, you're cheating yourself of an extraordinary life.
Is there a tactic or a strategy to make me a better learner? Especially someone that does this podcast. I get to meet people like you, so I want to store everything in this time that we have.
Yes, I believe in immersion and spaced repetition. So I believe, did you take a language in school?
Oh, God, yeah, German.
Can you speak it?
9.
That's right. So most people go to college or high school and college and they take a language, right? And 5 years later, 10 years later, can't speak a word, right? Immersion is how you do it. So if I wanted to teach you a language and you had the time and money, I would take you to Italy and I would drop you in the middle of Rome and say, I'll see you in 90 days.
Yeah.
With no one to teach you in 90 days, are you going to be speaking the language?
Better. Yeah.
You're going to speak the language. You're going to know the nuances of the language. You're going to have a pitch and tone that's more there because it's how you learned originally, by total immersion. So the reason I do 12 hours a day for 4 days, 50 hours in a weekend, or 60 hours, and most people think I'll never do that, but they're having the time of their life. So time disappears when you're enjoying yourself and you hate it. I mean, it feels like eternity. But the reason I'm able to do that is that immersion is like years of experience, and you're in a peak state while you're doing it. So you remember it because it's locked in, like 9/11. As opposed to 8/11. So I love that. The other thing that I do is I'm capturing, I use AI now to do it. I've kept journals my whole life, just like you, it looks like you've done. But I'm building on it. But I have my AI that I've been feeding over and over and over again, the things I wanted to remember, the principles, and I create structures to evaluate these things.
And I asked you there about how these wealthy investors make their money. The last question I really have around this is how the best entrepreneurs in the world make their money. Again, we're called the Diary of a CEO. So there's lots of entrepreneurs and business builders watching. And I know you've worked with many of the world's top entrepreneurs. In fact, one of them wrote you a letter.
Oh, which one?
Mark Benioff.
Oh, I love Mark. He's a beautiful man.
For anyone that doesn't know who Mark is, he's the founder CEO of Salesforce.
Yes. Yeah. He actually came to 4, I think, or 5 of my seminars originally in a row, same seminar. And, Mark's as big as I am. He's a big guy, and he was going for it full tilt. And finally, after the 4th one, he came up to me and said, "You've convinced me. I'm going to leave Oracle. I'm going to start my own business. I want you to come on the journey with me. It's called Salesforce.com. He said, we're going to change business around the world. And he said this to me. He goes, and I promise you, we'll get to $100 million in business. Now he's doing like 42 billion, right? So, but what I love about Mark is he's a contributor. He's a social CEO. Like, he does things for society. He isn't just about himself. He's an extraordinary human being.
He said, "Dear Tony, I'm so deeply grateful for everything that you've done for me over the last 4 decades." He talked about the seminars he'd been to with you and says that you've transformed his life through your inspiration and ideas. He talks about that particular seminar you referenced as the moment that led him to go deeper and deeper and deeper. He said, "It was at Date with Destiny that I made the firm decision to leave Oracle and start my own company. We even had a brief conversation about it back then, if you remember."
Yeah, I remember.
Fast forward 26 years, and Salesforce now has 80,000 employees and generates over 40 billion in revenue annually. It stands as the largest enterprise software company in the world. I truly could not have done it without you by my side. And as you always say, we often overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we vastly underestimate what we can do in a few decades. Tony, I started this letter with gratitude, and I'll end it the same way. When I reached my most difficult moments, you were there. When I reached my highest heights, you were also there. I never forgot that whenever I reached out for help, you returned the phone call or text, always quickly. Business and politics are temporal, but relationships are eternal, and yours is one I carry with me always. Congratulations on everything you're doing. I look forward to a wonderful future with you. Aloha, Mark.
That's very beautiful. That makes me a little emotional. I love Mark. He's such a good man, and that's very kind of him to write that letter. He says he gives me more credit than I deserve, but I love him personally. I love strangers. I'm driven by that, but I love Mark because he's such a giver. I see him as a role model of what a great CEO is, someone who understands the social impact of what they're doing as well as the business impact. He's got a heart of gold. And of course, we all have ups and downs throughout our lives. And he thinks he's just, I've just helped him. He's helped me too. It's like, it's never a one-way piece. It's not like I go around and coach all these people. I'm no idiot. I've learned so much from Mark. It's priceless. So I have to send that thanks right back to him. No question about it.
Where does that emotion come from that I see in your face?
I don't know. It's just like, I'm an emotional guy. I'm an empathetic guy, and I'm a lover. That's what drives all that I do. And to see somebody I love and to see how far he's come and to know that I've been able to be helpful to him at key moments is meaningful. It's extremely meaningful because he's provided opportunities for millions of people, 80,000 employees, but millions of people through his creativity and his focus. And we've done a lot of cool things together. I called him one time. I was up in San Francisco for other business. And I read in the paper that this landlord was kicking out these nuns who had the food kitchen in the worst part of the city there, in the Tenderloin district. And I was like, this guy's an idiot. I mean, I gotta do something. So instead of leaving, I spent an extra day and I went and met these nuns, most incredible ladies. And they were spending all their time cooking food so they could sell food, so they could make money, so they could actually prepare food for the homeless there. And in this tiny little building, and they were getting kicked out. So I called the owner and I said, listen, I own a lot of real estate also. I understand your rights as a real estate guy, but I said, do you want to be the most hated guy in San Francisco? I said, I'll give you an option. How about let them stay to the end of the year? I'll pay their lease. I'll pay twice the amount, and then I'll get them out. I said, but you don't push them out now on the street. So he agreed. And so then I said to ladies, let's find a place for you, and I'll help you find a place. We'll rent a place for you. And then I started getting phone calls, and one of the phone calls I got was this realtor, and he goes, they're looking to buy a place. And I said, well, where are they getting the money? They said, I don't know. So I called the nun up, and she goes, I said, I'd pay for a place for you guys for a year, lease you a place. I said, but I hear you're looking to buy a place. Do you guys have some capital I'm unaware of? And she goes, no. She goes, God will provide, Tony. Like, God will provide. So I spent, I don't know, $1.2 million, something like that, to find them a place. But then I called Mark because I didn't want them living in the place. I said, Mark, match me on this. And I mean, he didn't hesitate a second. He had not even met the nuns. Then he went to the nuns. We went and met them. And he went and he bought them a home for them to stay in. And then we went through 4 years of the city trying to not let them take over this place. But that's the kind of guy Mark is. So he's incredibly generous. And I'm very touched that I could count him as a friend and be helpful to him. And he's been so helpful to me.
I've learned quite a lot about you today just from observing you. And one of the big things that I've learned is the 2 moments where I've seen tears in your eyes have both been moments where people have expressed a huge amount of love and appreciation for you.
That's true.